المشكل الباري علام الأخباري من كل جباري يحارب المل.
Yeah. All right. Nice to see everyone. Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Like I said, last time was preparing. Now it's how to deliver. Okay, so we're just going to skip through a lot of these because we already did that. MashaAllah, you guys memorized most of them. Now let's see. We talked about 90% of how it's going to go. It has to do with before you get on the stage, before you get up there. So make sure you know your information very, very well. All right. Prepare yourself. We already talked about it. Talking about having some type of opening. Talking about the body and the conclusion. All right, keep going. Time constraints, talked about that. Organization, visual effects is raised, blah, blah, blah. Pre-performance. All right, here we go. This is what I want to talk about. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to read something. I'm going to read it twice to give you a little background on it. Basically, this was a letter that was written. Its primary purpose was to entertain. It's not necessarily a real letter that was actually sent to an airlines, but it's about a customer's reaction and experience that they had on a flight that they took. Okay? So basically I'm going to read this twice. I want you to pay attention to what I say, how I say it, what I'm doing, and things like that. Okay? So I'm going to read it twice, inshallah, and you, after that, you're going to tell me what are the differences between the two, what you think is effective, why and why not. Okay? Alrighty. So, here we go. You ready?
Yes.
Good, that's what I want. Ready. Here we go. Dear American Airlines, do you like riddles? I do, that's why I'm starting this letter with one. What weighs more than a motorcycle, but less than a tank? No idea. How about what measures food portions in kilograms and smells like poop? Still nothing? Right, okay. One more try. What is fat as an elephant and stinks like old cheese and should be forced to purchase 2 seats on an American Airlines flight? That's right. It's the man that I sat next to on my flight from Boston to New York yesterday. Okay. Now I'm going to read it a second time. We'll see how it goes. Dear American Airlines, do you like riddles? Because I do, and that's why I'm starting with one. Right? What weighs more than a motorcycle and less than a tank? No idea? Well, how about what measures food portions in kilograms and smells like poop? Still nothing? Right? One more try. What is as fat as an elephant, stinks like old cheese, and should be forced to purchase 2 seats on an American Airlines flight, the one that I took yesterday from Boston to New York? All right. What are some differences between the two? Try to entertain you more. How? I'm not asking just what I did, but how did I do it? What's different?
First of all, you was low. At the first time, your voice was so low and you was turning your back so much.
Excellent.
But at the second time, you was more interactive and you was
how?
face to face.
How was I more interactive? What do you mean?
By making your voice louder and showing that you have emotions.
Excellent. Anything else you guys notice? Differences between the two? Go ahead, Ahmed.
You kept looking at your audience and you use body language.
Okay.
And you use a lot of different types of voices.
MashaAllah. Right there. Good. Alhamdulillah. Anything else? No? All right. We're going to go through each one of these, inshallah. As we talked about, dress is important. The way that you dress says a lot about you as not necessarily a person, but how people will, their first impression that they'll make of you. So like we said, be clean, make sure that you don't eat right before you speak. Eat in some other clothes, so in case you spill ketchup all over your shirt, you have some nice shirt you can actually replace it with, and so on. Look sharp. I think you guys know what that means, right? I don't mean you have to wear a suit and tie, but don't show up and you're just wearing like shorts and flip-flops and a t-shirt, right? And you're just like, hey guys, you know, how's it going? I just woke up, right? It's not, it doesn't look very professional. Obviously, if you're like talking to your friends, right, you're in one circumstance, but like imagine you're going for like a job interview, right? You want to give a good impression, right? You want to be formal. Like I said, it doesn't mean suit and tie, but it just means that you just look nice. It looks like you spent at least more than like, what, 2 seconds preparing? Yeah, so do that. As we talked about last time, roughly 7%, this is not exact, but this is, you know, based on studies that they've done, roughly 7%, 38% of your voice and 55% of nonverbal communication goes into how we are received by an audience. So it's not simply just the words that we use, but it's how we use them, the voice we use to convey them, and a lot of it has to do with the body language that we use to connect with our audience. Okay? Did you notice what I just did? Connect with our audience. We're talking about the person you're talking about and actually brought you to me. Right? These are all things that are very subtle, but can make a big impact. So we're going to talk about that. First and foremost, you notice the first time I was looking at my phone primarily. Of course, the second time I did because I didn't memorize it. I'm sorry. Probably would have been a little better if I just talked to you directly and wasn't reading off it. However, I did that on purpose, right? I'm looking down. I'm looking at the ground. I'm not really connecting with you. When a person is talking to you, and I'm not talking about when you're on the phone because that's different. You're only talking about voice there. But if you're actually communicating with a person and you're trying to have, and we're not talking about just buying something from the store. We're talking about like a real conversation with a person, because that's really what public speaking is. It's a conversation between you and your audience, right? Don't think of it, I'm just giving a talk to just a bunch of people. It's like you are talking with them, right? So you have to make them feel that they are receiving something positive, something that's benefiting them in some way. So look at the person in the eye, right? And not just a person, because you don't want to be like, so today I'm going to talk about this thing, right? Because the person's like, is this guy going to kill me? I mean, what's going on, right? So don't just pick one person in the back and be like, yeah, so today with the thing. And then I'm just like, I'm not focusing on anyone else except you, right? Unless you're doing it for a specific reason to make a point. And you can do it actually a little bit if you see that a person's using his phone, like Altaf is right now. So I could like keep looking at him for just a couple seconds so that if he catches me looking at him, he might be like, oh, okay, I'll put that away. However, don't stare, all right? If you get nervous looking at people's faces, look at their foreheads, right? Or like their hairline. They can't tell the difference, right? So where am I looking right now? Oh, exactly, right? So that's what I mean. I'm just looking right around here. It looks the same to him. But people, when you face them, they feel that they are being talked to. If you are just talking, it's like this is one of the worst things, especially as a teacher, you could ever do. So today, class, we're going to talk about this thing, and it's really interesting, and you should be paying a lot of attention. Do you like my back? Right? I'm not talking with the back of my head, right? It's like all of a sudden everyone's sleeping, right? There's a reason why, as teachers, we need to learn to like try to keep our back to the audience as least as possible. Like I mentioned last week, if you do, for example, if you have space, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes, if you do have space that you can go into and you can actually walk into that space, if the people are sitting at tables or whatever, or you have an aisle down the middle and you're able to get off the stage, I'm not saying you have to, right? But if you think it would be beneficial, right, and it would help your performance, then do it. But just when you're coming back, don't just like walk all the way back like this and then just watching your back. If you can walk back safely, right, while still talking, connecting to the audience, make sure you practice this before you do it, right? Maintain eye contact, but don't just be like, yeah, so, and then you fall because you've just ruined, you might have had a great speech, but then everyone's going to be talking about, man, did you see that guy fall today? Oh, that was so embarrassing. And you're going to be like the color of this guy's shirt, like red. Don't do that, okay? But maintain eye contact. People really like when you look at them. I don't think anyone here is married yet, or not many people. MashaAllah. I meant many, right? But like women, right? If you don't look at them when you talk, they get really upset. Doesn't mean that it's not the same with men. But the main thing is this. When you're giving a public speak, look at the people, okay? They feel that you are talking to them as opposed to just talking at them in their direction, okay? When you're talking to them, they feel like it's something that's special to them, all right? And the whole point of public speaking is you want to convey whatever information is important to you. The thing that makes it interesting is when they feel this is something really important, I should pay attention, right? I want to understand what is this thing that's so important to this guy or this lady that I want to take that, okay? So eye contact is really, really important. I can't stress that enough. Now with regard to body language, a lot of people, I have both 5th graders and 8th graders at the school I teach at, and so I've been doing, I gave this presentation to both classes, and we've been talking about public speaking in general, and so when I asked my kids to go up, even if I've talked about it, a lot of them, they're like, yeah. So I'd like to talk about the Civil War. Abraham Lincoln, he was the president. All right. Right now, when I'm shifting my weight, right, with my legs, it looks like I need to pee. All right? And when I have my hands in my pockets, it looks like I'm hiding something or I'm just really bored, right? And you tend to, when you do this, your shoulders are slouched forward, right? And you kind of like keep looking at the ground because it's kind of hard to like lift your head up. And if you do, you look like a hunchback, right? So don't do that, right? Be straight, right? Actually, throw your shoulders back. I don't mean like, but in a natural position, right? You're not trying to show off your muscles here, right? But just have it back. Also, your feet should be in a good natural position, right? You're not doing kung fu, so you don't need to do some like Y stance. You also don't want to have them together because like you might sneeze and fall over. It's right, but you want it to be natural, right? The other thing too, know your space, right? Know the space that you have. Maybe you only have a podium, that thing that they put, that that wood thing that they have that people stand in front of and usually they're reading off of. Maybe that's what you have. But even if you have that and it's blocking half your body, you still have your hands, your face, your expressions. You can still express a lot. Look at this. Express a lot. Do you see what I just did? Yeah. With your body language, right? Now, a lot of people, when it comes to their body language, they really don't know exactly what to do. So when they're first starting, they start doing some really strange things. So for example, I said to my students, guys, don't stand in the same place, don't have your hands in your pockets, get up, move around a bit. Right? What's that? Move around a bit. Right? With each syllable, I'm getting another, right? Right? Don't stay in the same place. So I have one student who did this. So he's like, all right, so, like, I thought the guy was dancing, right? He was like doing this weird thing. And I'm just watching, and I can't even concentrate on what he's saying because it looks like he's doing some Michael Jackson thing, So, move, but move naturally. I'll just say that again. Move, but move naturally. I'm emphasizing with my body language, with my hands, with my movement, I'm actually emphasizing certain words, okay? So, know your space that you're in, and so if you're going to walk out into it, don't do any weird things. Also, a lot of people, when they're nervous, they have a tendency to do these weird things, like scratch their head, like flinch, like make these little twitches and stuff, like, like I said, the weird, like, I gotta pee thing, like all these things. Your audience will pay attention to anything that doesn't look normal. Have you ever seen someone who just, something seems off about them? Like something is just weird, and you don't know what's wrong with them, but they're like, right? And you can just tell from like across the street, that guy has a problem, right? Don't do that. Don't do that when you're giving a public speech. Because if you're like, yeah, so today, yeah, right? People are going to be like, what is going on? What's wrong with the guy's eye, right? I mean, yes, it's true, you might have a fly in your eye, that's possible. However, a lot of people, they unconsciously do things when they are speaking in public. What do I mean by unconsciously? I don't mean unconscious. Unconsciously. They're unaware of it, right? This is why it's really, 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 really important to film yourself. It's good to prepare in front of a mirror because it helps you, like my young friend brought up, right? Because it helps you prepare. However, when you're doing something in front of the mirror, you might not catch it right away because you see yourself there. But if you just put this camera on, like right now, I'm not even thinking about the camera back there, right? Right? Because it's different than if you're seeing yourself in front of the mirror. But if you have the camera on and you just film yourself in your living room or at your school or whatever, practicing, and then you watch it, you'll be like, dude, what was I doing with my hands, you know? Just like some weird thing. So pay attention to those things. Anything that you see yourself doing, then be like, okay, and write it down. Okay, I was like scratching somewhere, right? Right? I like kept like doing this weird thing with my nose, right? Whatever it is, and write those things down, and then look at it before you try again. Then film yourself a second time. Don't delete your first one, but film yourself a second time, having looked at those things with a conscious idea. Okay, like if I move my hand to scratch my side or my armpit or something, right? Don't do it. Make it like something natural, right? Don't do it. Catch yourself before you do it, because really this audiences have a really good ability to just pull out all of your mistakes, right? This is one of the worst things you can do in public speaking. Sometimes it's better that they just hear your voice than they actually see you. And other times it's just people that just do weird things. So I say move your arms and they're like a windmill, right? I don't mean just be crazy. And also when you're talking, notice what I just did. When you're talking, right? Don't do not like crazy exaggerated movements. And also don't do it at the wrong time, right? Because if you do at the wrong time, it just looks like you're a crazy robot, okay? So really, it just looks like something went wrong and it's not good, right? So yeah, but as far as your body language goes, like I said, those are some things you shouldn't do. As for, well, what should I do, right? Like I said, use your hands. Notice with the syllables I'm saying, I'm actually moving my hands. There are many videos on YouTube that go through actually the details of having your hands up and all this stuff. But I was watching one and it was quite interesting. And so sometimes you're interacting with your audience, right? And so you want the audience to do something. So and one time he says, okay, so the guy has his hands at his side. He's like, all right, I want you guys to all get up now. Like he was just asking the people to get up, right? Did anyone like feel like they should be getting up then? Not really. Guys, I want you to stand up now, all right? Not really. Now, then he's like, okay, I want you to get up. It was like Heil Hitler, right? I want you to get up. What is this? No one says it, right? I want you to get up with a finger. No one responds to a finger, right? But it's like, hey guys, can you get up please, right? Now people respond to that. If you have your hand down and you're doing this weird thing, people don't get it. You have your hand up. Hey, could you guys stand up please, right? People have a much more, it's like a 85-90% chance that if you're giving them instruction, they're actually listening to you, that they're going to be like, oh, okay, and they'll get up, right? Because it makes sense. Get up, the hands facing up, right? As far as you're talking, you're emphasizing the syllables. You're talking about multiple points, for example. You can use your fingers. So, of all my accomplishments during my life, I've done this and this and this and this. Right? I counted, right? Both physically, I mean with my voice, as well as showing you. This emphasizes those accomplishments I'm talking about. It makes it feel like, wow, he did that and that and that and that. And it also helps the audience remember what you did too, right? Likewise, if you're talking about different things, you're starting with one, then you go to the other. You actually switch sides, right? And also, like I said, move. Move, and it doesn't mean you have to move and go into the crowd and be like, hey, how's it going? And get all up in someone's face. Some people don't like that. I'd try to avoid that if I were you. But you might have a small space on the stage, but don't just be like, right? So today I'm going to talk. It looks like you're juggling, right? Right? Don't juggle, right? Get out. If you don't need a podium, don't stand behind the podium. Don't stand behind a chair. Don't have something in front of you. It looks like you're hiding something or you're not wearing pants. Okay? Get behind that thing, right? Sorry, get behind that. No, get in front of that thing. Sorry, get that thing behind you, right? Get in front of it. Have people be able to see you, right? By the way, not in every culture, but in a lot of cultures, historically, like in ancient Rome, for example, when people would give each other handshakes, they actually would not shake the hand, but they would grab the forearm. Because if anyone had dagger in there, right, they would be like, all right, this guy's trying to kill me, right? So they could touch it, they could feel it, right? So you don't want the audience, of course, you're not like packing weapons or whatever, but you don't want the audience to feel like there's anything that's hiding, something that seems weird. Doesn't, of course, we're not talking about weapons, but anything that just seems off, right? You want it to seem natural. Like you've known them for a long time. Of course, you haven't in many cases. They're not necessarily your best friends. But you want it to feel like you're someone they've never seen before, and they feel comfortable with you. So it's not like you're hiding anything, you're not doing any weird actions, right? You're not dancing, you're not doing anything funky, but you can really connect. Look at that, connect, boom, right? You're connecting, right? Try to, in addition to emphasizing the words with movements of your hand, try to actually make the things that you do make sense, right? So what if I'm saying is that if I'm talking about connecting between people, I'm actually doing some type of motion that actually relates to things connecting, right? And then I could talk about, and then I saw this guy who really frightened me, right? I not only talked about what happened, but I actually stepped back and kind of gave a face that looked frightened. It helps emphasize that. So the thing is, body language, we, from our cognitive abilities and our, thinking, when it comes to this, 55%. Have you guys ever watched a movie or something on YouTube in a language that you don't understand? Or that you're learning, that you don't know a whole lot about? But because of what the people are doing, you're like, I got it. I know exactly what he's talking about. I missed like that sentence, but I know what he's talking about, right? Because it has to do with the way people act. Of course, just listening to audio is of course beneficial for your listening skills. However, when you take that audio and visual and you put it together, right? Put it together, right? When you take that audio and visual and you put it together, it's very, very helpful. Notice I emphasize very, very. Of course, we could have an entire 3-hour session just on ways to move your hands, right? However, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to just go through a few things and emphasize them too. So yeah, your body language is important. Don't stand too stiff. Also, don't be too exaggerated. So, because if you're like, moving around too much, people are gonna feel like you're trying to attack them. That's not, did you get scared? Right? Yeah. Because you might shock someone or give them a heart attack. And I don't think your intention is to go up and be like, okay, today guys, I'm gonna talk about this thing, right? Don't be too much. Middle, just like Islam. You don't go to this extreme, you don't go to that extreme, right? Is that it's a middle way. Same thing with regard to everything in life, by the way. It's my advice. Everything in life, if you want to do it well, do the middle way. Don't go to this extreme, don't go to that extreme. Just stay in the middle. Same thing with deen, because this is the deen of the way of life of all mankind to follow. Now, vocal variety. Notice that, vocal variety. Now, what do we mean by this? Variety is what? What's variety? Change. And different things, right? Not staying same thing. All right. I am a robot. I talk with the same monotone and you can't hear any difference in my voice. People don't like robots. By the way, you can look on YouTube. You have some scientists who are developing robots that are humanoid robots. They look a lot like humans. Some of them are scarily real. Like you think that it's real until it starts talking and it's like, I am not a robot. I'm a real person. I'm a real person, right? And you're like, no, you're not. You look real, but you're definitely not just because of the way you're talking, right? So when you combine that with like standing with your hands in the pocket and like doing this like weird like I gotta pee thing, and today I'm gonna talk about this thing and oh my god, I'm so nervous, oh my god. It really looks like it. You are, even without saying it, people can be like, man, this guy is so nervous. And like we were talking about with preparing, you practice it to death so that you're not nervous. That you call over some friends, and your friends might be like, dude, he wants us to go over and watch him speak. If you want to do better and get an A+, yeah. Be like, hey guys, we were going to play Xbox. Can I just take you for 5 minutes? And then we can play another round of FIFA. But just get them up there, because they're all going to be over at your house anyway. You can even trick them, right? Be like, guys, let's go play FIFA. They come over, and it's like, all right, we're going to play FIFA. Can you guys help me there for like 5 minutes? And then they're going to like, oh, okay, whatever. Because they're your friends, right? They'll be down with that. So try to get any opportunity you can to put yourself in a public scene. So that whether it's 5 people, 500 people, 5,000 people, you can do whatever you can to try to get yourself prepared for that. Of course, you going in front of much larger audiences is much more terrifying, even for myself. I remember, when I first started, the way that I got into public speaking was there was no one at my small school. We only had about 20 Muslims and only about 5 or 10 of them who actually prayed regularly and wanted to attend Jummah, and no one was going to give khutbah, and we didn't have an imam. So it was like, okay, we either don't have Jummah or someone does it. And everyone's like, nope, not me. And I was like, dude, we have to do it. And eventually I was like, okay, khalas, whatever, I'll just do it. And of course I made a fool of myself in the beginning. I'm sure I just looked horrible. However, it went up to the point that I was able to go in front of several hundred people, if not 1,000 people, and talk, right? And it just happened because over the years I was able to build up certain experiences. So try to put yourself in, especially if you're afraid of doing it, try to put yourself in non-threatening environments, especially with your friends, with your family, with a camcorder, anything to just practice. The more you practice, they say practice makes perfect. Look, practice makes perfect, okay? So practice as much as you can. So yeah, but as far as vocal variety, sorry I went on a tangent there, vocal variety, people, we said, 7% is the things you actually say, 38% is how you say it. You notice what I just did? 7%, right? I emphasize how, and I even put my body language, brought my face forward, right? How you say it, okay? Right now, Altaf, you can't hear me at all. Can you hear me, Altaf? No, not really? Okay. Yes. Yeah? Can anyone hear me right now? Can you hear me? Not really. Okay. Why? Because my voice is really low. Okay. Altaf! Yeah. I don't mean scream at people. People don't like to be screamed at. So don't be like, hey guys! Today, I'm going to talk about something amazing. You should listen right now. No. No. But don't keep the same monotone. Don't keep the same monotone. Notice I said monotone. I went down. Vary it up. Vary. Look, vary. The word means more than one, right? Vary it up. What you're doing, okay? And focus also on your pauses. A pause when you stop for a second. Because what happens if you emphasize certain words, people understand them as being meaningful. Also, if you repeat, look at that, repeat. We all know that, right? You repeat certain words, people also understand that this is something that's important. Why is he repeating it? Because it's important. You notice in the Quran, there's a lot of ayat, they repeat, or they're very similar to one another. And Allah says that you have many oft-repeated verses, right? Regularly repeated verses, right? It's because Allah is trying to emphasize important things to us. Allahu Ghafur Rahim, Allahu Shadidul Iqab, Allah, right? And it keeps repeating, right? For a reason. It's not if this is something that's important to pay attention to for Muslims when they're going through Quran. Look at the things that are repeated a lot, because it'll point you in directions of things that are important, that Allah is trying to direct our attention to. But the thing is in addition to repetition, and you don't want to just keep repeating like a broken record, it's annoying. But I'm saying, but every time you keep bringing something up or whatever, people will understand. You can bring it up in different ways with different words. No, but different ways with different words. See what I did? All right. But vary your voice. So sometimes talk soft, because it's like this. Look, has anyone ever seen a horror film? I mean, I'm not saying we have to talk about which one. Most of them are bad, but we understand what happens in a horror film. Like in the beginning, everything is normal, and then something happens really quickly. Right? You have someone like in their kitchen, and they're like, like making eggs or something, and then something goes by the window that looked like a monster, and you're like, oh my God! Right? Now, what happens is, you'll notice also with their soundtracks, they have music usually in the back of a lot of these movies. Right when they do that, it's like there is nothing, and all of a sudden it's like, right? And actually you'll hear it. I don't mean drums even, but it'll just like, there's some sound that gets from really quiet to really loud, really quick, right? Now these things, what does it do? It builds suspense, right? And it doesn't mean necessarily suspense, but the thing is it builds. You can build up to important things, okay? So you can also use your turning down the volume to draw the people in, because they're like, he's gonna say something, right? So guys, hey, I want your attention. Can you look here, please? Hey guys, right? You can lower your voice, and people are like, dude, what's going on? I don't mean you do it to an extreme way, but you can drop your voice, and then you pause for a second, and people are like, but don't pause too long, because then it looks like you forgot, right? But it's like, guys, hey, I want to talk about something really, really important, right? And you pause. And then you talk about, so building, what is this important thing? Is building that suspense. Don't wait too long, like second and a half, but not too much, right? Same thing with your vocal variety, is that sometimes, if you're emphasizing important things, just like you have, guys, if you look here, right? Look at these designs on the wall here. What stands out? What are the main things that stand out on this wall? All right, the heading, right? So we got homes, universe, towns, world. Why does that stand out? Because it's big. How do you become big with your voice? You make it big. You make it louder, right? Those are things that stand out, right? This is this emphasis. Just like if you put something in bold, right? You're writing a text message or whatever. I don't know if you can do this, but you're writing a letter or something. You put something in bold, or you put all capital letters, and you do like exclamation mark, right? People are like, okay, this is important. I want you to come today and tomorrow, right? Today and tomorrow, emphasizing and tomorrow, and I'm pointing, right? You look up here, we have, those are in bold, they're big. You can't, obviously you're not a text message, so you have to be able to do it with your voice, vocally. So raise your voice a little bit, but don't shout again, right? Likewise, we have pictures. The pictures are big. The main things that stand out here are the pictures and the big text. Now, this small text underneath, can you really read it? You can if you go up to it. But what is it that's going to make you want to read about the universe? It says universe. You know what it's talking about. You want to make sure your audience knows what you're talking about, right? You want to make sure that those important points, that you are really clear in emphasizing what's being talked about at that time, right? So after talking about this thing in the galaxy, then you're talking about this other nebula, and you're making it very clear that you're switching to something new, and you make, using your voice, all right, now, I'm going to talk about this, and you make it really clear. Now, it doesn't mean that you're going to just after that, and it's not important. But you get their attention with the new fact. They are now clearly understanding what you're going to be talking about, and now, now you can just go on with your thing. So just like you have those bullet points with those main headings in bold, obviously do this with your voice too. Okay? So yeah, there were, let's see, a couple more things that I got here. One more. Apologize. Eye contact, voice, props. Oh yeah, if you have some type of prop, what I mean by prop is anything that you're interacting with on the stage, whether this is a chair, whether this is a phone, whether this is PowerPoint, whether this is a podium, anything that you have, make sure that you know about it ahead of time. And if you're planning to use something, make sure that you know how to use it well. So for example, if you are using PowerPoint, it's better if you actually have one of those like clicker things, and you know how to go forward and backwards and start over and all this other stuff. You know how to use it well, so that you don't even have to look at it. You just click and go through the slides. If you don't have one of those cool clicker things, just make sure you know where the keys are, so you're not like exiting in the middle of your presentation and, oh, 1 second guys, right? And then trying to do it again. That you know exactly what you're doing, okay? The other thing too is better not to do, it's just because we don't have it right now, but it's better not to find yourself behind things, like I said, if possible. It's better to be in front of them. And right now, if, for example, I want to show you something, then I would switch to the next thing, and I would go through, I would just bring it up, and as soon as I did that as really quick, I'd be right back to the middle. Also, always come back to that center. Don't just go off to one side, and now I'm giving my talk from over here for the rest of the time. Because these guys are like, why is he over there? Right? So always come back. So if you go to one place or to the back or the front, whatever, always come back to your center. But it's fine to move. And this moving should be used to emphasize the things you're talking about. Notice I lean forward and I move my arms a bit to emphasize those important things. Okay? With the eye contact like I talked about, make sure you are kind of scanning. You don't even have to look at everyone, and I'm not talking about some like weird right? You're not a sonar, you're not like, just weird, right? Don't do that. But what I mean is in a natural way, pause on the person for like a little bit. That you can be moving around, then you make eye contact with the person, then you move back, right? So it's something where everyone, they feel like they are interacting. At some point, they're interacting. But you're not going, one. Yeah, so I'm talking to you for 2 seconds, and then you for 2 seconds, and then you for 2 seconds, and I'm doing this like little thing, right? It's weird, right? So sometimes when people are trying to get better at public speaking, they're trying to implement all these things they heard about, and they just look weird. So make sure you film yourself or have someone who can write down all your weird things so that you cannot repeat them. Because when you go up in front of the class and you're just like doing some funny things and you don't even know you look like a chicken, right? People are gonna be like, dude, that guy looked like a chicken. And they're not gonna remember anything that you said, except like, he's like, oh yeah, he was talking about the universe and he looked like a chicken. And that's not what you want them to come away with, right? You want them to be drawn in, right? Okay. Like we said, dress codes, anything else, blah, 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 blah. Eye contact, two-way, keeps everyone invested and involved. Pay attention to everyone in the room. Works in conjunction with your head movement. So as you're moving, you're also moving your eyes. Okay? Body language, not an act. I don't know, a lot of times, has anyone ever seen a play at their school? Ever? Or anywhere? Okay, like a play, when people get on stage and they're acting. Sometimes actors are super dramatic. Oh my God! Why? Right? Yeah, don't do that. Don't be over the top, because you'll grab attention, but not for the right reasons. You got that? You'll grab attention, but not for the right reasons. Okay? So it's not an act. You want it to seem completely natural. You want it to seem like you prepared this so well that you're saying it for the first time, and it's just coming out. It's flowing out, as if you didn't even prepare. Right? It's just coming out naturally. You know your subject so well that there's not a point where you pause and you're like, oh, what was I talking about again? And you have to do what I just did, check my phone. What's next? Right? Don't do that. Right? I apologize for that. I didn't have a whole lot of time today. Right? So, you don't want it to be over the top. You also don't want to underperform. Meaning you don't want to be kind of shy in the back of the room and hands in the pockets and forward and doing the pee dance and all that stuff. Okay? Don't do that. Okay? Gestures that feel natural. Not crazy waving unless, hey, yeah, you, hey. Unless it's part of your performance, don't do jumping jacks. Don't, right? But you can talk about, like, hey guys in the back, yeah, how's it going, right? Yeah, you're awesome, right? You can connect with them. You can use big motions to like reach out to people who are far away, or to make, and to try to kind of bring them in. Hey guys, can you get closer? Usually I just said, it's like as if I'm giving you all a big hug and pulling you in, right? You guys can you come up a little bit, right? So that's important too. Anything else? Mindful of your hands at all times. Just know what you're doing with your hands. Like, it's attached to your body, know what it's doing, okay? So don't be like, it just looks weird, okay? Movement helps, but decide how much you want to move in advance. Don't try to do new things, especially when it comes to your public speaking, when you're starting. Don't be like, you watch a YouTube video, like right as you're about to get on stage, you're like, oh, that's a great new idea, let me try it for the first time right now. No. Practice, practice, practice. If it works and you practice, and then you have not only the camera watches you, but you have some real people who watch you, and they're like, that was really good, and you can say, hey, by the way, I did this, did you notice it? They're like, yeah, do you think that was good or bad? Yeah, it was helpful, or no, I don't think so. Or you could just watch the video and see what you think. Did it work, did it not? By the way, some things that work for some people might not necessarily work for other people. You see that? For some people, for other people. Might not work, okay? So just see what works for you, okay? Record yourself, similar environment, vocal variety, loud, silent, animated, steady. Your language needs to be consistent. Just as you would speak in one way to a judge, or if you're going into a job interview, you might speak really differently if you're talking to little kids. Like when I talk with my son, like I'm like, hey buddy, how's it going? Like I get really animated and like my voice gets all high pitched, like awesome, right? And I'm like all these things with my son. But the thing is, if you go in and you're like, hey buddy, how's it going? Right? He's gonna be like, who are you? Right? It's like awesome, right? It's not gonna work. So not only do you know your audience, but it needs to be consistent. So if you're like, okay, I'm talking to a bunch of teenagers right now, you talk to them in a way that they can understand. By the way, the way I talk with you and the things I say, and you notice that I try to, I say certain things, you guys laugh once in a while. If this was a group of adults, I would never do that. Never. Because although I might throw a little joke in here or there, whatever, the certain things I'm saying, they'd be like, who's this guy, like 12? It reflects the things you say and how you say them. So your language needs to be consistent, so you're not going all over the place unless you're doing it on purpose. If you're doing it to entertain and you're sounding like an old person, then you're sounding, like you're talking to a young person, okay, that's one thing. But in most cases, you don't want to do that. So the types of words you use, we're talking about knowing your audience, right? Don't use words that are way over their head. Have it be something that the people of their age, they're going to understand. Likewise, when I was editing that thing I was reading to you, because some of the language could have been better, right, in the original version, I had to look inside, because some of the words also, not only were there some bad words, but some of the words were just complicated, big words that a lot of people might not know, right? So I just changed it to something that's simpler. So know who you're talking to. If you're talking to a bunch of college professors, that's one thing. But if you're talking to people who aren't at that level, don't talk over their heads, because then they're going to think, dude, why am I here? I don't even understand what... It's like Chinese. Honestly, you can have a person speaking the same language as you, that's your native language, and they're using such complicated high-level language that you're like, what's happening? I have no idea. And if your audience is lost, they just look like, what's going on? They probably are, and you probably need to tone it down a bit, okay? Use of pauses, like I said, it's fine to pause. It's fine to wait for a second. Don't constantly be going, right, and then this topic, and then because people just like, he's like the Energizer bunny, he just keeps going, and it's not natural. People, they pause, they stop, they take a moment, right? You could talk about, and when I was young, I really got in trouble with my dad. I did something he didn't like. Now people are like, what's the thing, right? And then you pause for a second, I took some money from his wallet and I ate it. Right? No, whatever. Anyway, so you know what I mean? Is that you pause for a second to build up that suspense, and so don't. I didn't actually eat my dad's money, by the way. All right. Yeah, I don't know what that means actually, so I'm gonna rehearse. Don't memorize. No, really, I don't know what they meant by crunch words. So I edited this, but I didn't make the original. So some of the stuff could be better. Rehearse. Don't memorize. Like I said, memorize the most important points and the most important things you want to say under each one of those points, but don't try to memorize everything, because then you're going to be looking like, oh yeah, the thing I was going to talk about next. And then you're like, yeah. And it looks like you don't know what you're doing, because you don't. Because you're trying to memorize exactly the way you did it. And this is another way you can get goofed up. So memorize those points. If you're able to, all the time you're practicing, for example, you might start with, write it out. You have a script. Maybe the first couple times, just so you're familiar with it, right? The first couple times you have it. After that, you have like a post-it note, right? You have a post-it note that has your main points and the main things underneath that, till eventually you just get keywords. It's just one or two words, and you're like, okay, that's next. And eventually, you don't even need it. So don't be like, okay, I'm going to do it, let's do it. And then you have nothing to go with, and you're trying to practice, because you need to work your way down. It's like training wheels, the wheels that are on those bikes. When you first try to bike, you're not like telling your kid, good luck, buddy, right? And you have a 3-4-year-old, and he's on a regular bike, and he's about to fall over and break his head. No, you don't want that, right? You have to use it until you're ready to go to the next stage, right? So when you're ready, then you take away the full script, you go down to the main, points, and so on, until you can work your way down to something like this. And in most cases, it's best to not even have this. Okay? It's best to just be able to go from your head, because you know it so cold, so well, that if someone said, hey, can you give that speech again? You could just give it right again one more time. Exact same. Of course, it's not going to be exact same, but I mean close, right? That you touched on all those main things. Talking about all this stuff, anything else, pre-performance tips. Night before speech, just practice. And the night before, practice again. Good night's sleep, meals, finalize your routine. Avoid too much caffeine. Why should you avoid caffeine the night before? Yeah, because you might be like practicing so much, and you're like, okay, I gotta get ready for tomorrow's speech. And you're like drinking coffee or energy drinks or something. I gotta get ready, and you're practicing, and it's like, even if it's not late, caffeine can stay in your system for a while. And I don't encourage people to drink much of it anyway, but it can get in your system and stay in your system. For some people, it doesn't kick in right away. For myself, caffeine doesn't kick in for about an hour to an hour and a half until after I've drunk it. So, yeah. Just make sure you know yourself and don't have it in the evening, because you might not sleep, and then you'll come in the next morning and be like, hello. And then people are like, is there dust in the room? Was there something in your eye? Right? You don't want that. So yeah. And also, what's done is done. By the time you have to get up on stage, get in front of a room, give a presentation, you're out of time, buddy. Any prep that you should have done, you either did or you didn't do. There's no like last minute, like I'm going to cram for this, this test and get these last vocabulary words. No, it doesn't happen. You either practice and you do it well or you don't. That's it. So anything that happened up until that point, khalas. That's all you have. Whatever you prepared, that's what you got, right? And so if you didn't prepare well, whatever. But either way, it's done. Where you're at, that's what you got. Whatever practice you have, that's what you have to go and speak. For whatever reason, for whatever purpose, whether this is for school or if this is some type of event, or like last week we had some people, they got on stage and they're presenting, they're talking, right? And so on. And you could tell that some people had a little more experience than others when they're giving their public speech, right? But alhamdulillah, everyone did well, mashallah. But what is done? Visualize success. Meaning, I'm not saying you have to go into some weird meditation thing, right? But think about, inshallah, I can do it. Be positive. Think, inshallah, I can accomplish this thing. I did my best, I tried my best, and bismillah. Another thing, it's not in here. It's not in here. You gotta go, khalas? Alright. It's not in here, but I'll just end with this. When you're starting anything, ask Allah Azza wa Jal to make it easy for you, to put barakah in it. Before you go up and do it, there's a dua in Quran that we should all memorize, right? And this is what Musa alayhi salam, a dua that he made. Does anyone know it? Well, it's like, can you, in a loud voice so everyone can hear you?
قال رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي واجعل لي وزيرا من أهلي هارون أخي اشدد به أزري وأشركه في أمري. Barakallahu feek. Now, essentially, rough translation of this is you're asking Allah to make things easy for you. To take any impediment and issue with your speech and your ability to convey the message, right? To take this out of your speech so that it's clear. So that the message that you're conveying to the people is clear and it's easily understood by them. And it doesn't have to be that you're talking about Islam when you make this dua. It's for anything, right? It's like even with regard to your work, whatever work, right? Not everyone becomes a da'i or a sheikh. People become computer programmers or doctors or whatever. Ask Allah to help make your job easy for you. Of course, we should make sure we have halal jobs. Don't be like, something haram and you're like, Ya Allah, make it easy, because this doesn't work, right? But of course, halal job, and you're asking for success, because ultimately, any good that ever happens is from Allah. And this is, I'll just end on this and just a point to reflect on. Anything good that you ever get, whether this is in terms of money, a wife, kids, success, a really good performance, whatever you do, anything good, it's from Allah. Anything evil, it relates to ourselves and shaitan. But anything good is from Allah. So if you, is the last minute and you throw that basketball and it flies through the air and boom, your team wins, the first thing you should do is not, yeah, I'm amazing, look at what I did. No, Allah helped you do it. The first thing you say, right? Even if it's in your head, is Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah, right? No problem. No, what I mean, even if it's not out loud, that you show shukr to Allah, because ultimately any good that you ever achieve, it's from Allah, right? So put it in the right place, because unfortunately a lot of times people, they become really, really good at something. They practice a lot and they become really excellent at it, and they're like, man, I'm good. MashaAllah. Woof. Did you see me? Wow. And it leads to kibr, it leads to arrogance, it leads to pride. And the Prophet ﷺ said, a person who has a gharra, an atom's weight of pride, will not enter Jannah. An atom's weight of pride. Now it doesn't mean that you don't think that you can look good, that you can sound good, that you can perform well, right? But you don't say, oh, look how amazing I am. Give the thanks to where it's due. Barakallahu feek, guys. I hope that you benefited in some way, inshallah. Anything that I said that was correct was from Allah Azza wa Jal. Anything that was incorrect is from myself.
and the whispers of shaitan. Barakallahu feek. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.